I was so struck by how perfect this movie is, and how director Paul Verhoeven and you guys, there was not any moment, there was no indulgences taken in this movie. There's a moment where I don't know whether you guys are aware of this, but there's a RoboCop in the film. And this robotic officer, I feel like most movies would have spent a great deal of time talking about his consciousness. Does he have it? When does he get it? And here, they're like, has a dream, has consciousness, that's it, go. And from that point on, and even prior to it, the movie just had great pace. Is this a point that you guys agree with, or do I not know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that, that's due in part to the two writers and Paul Verhoeven, Ed Neumeyer, Michael Miner, and of course Verhoeven. They knew what they were doing, and it was never forced.
No.
At least I didn't feel to, pick it up, They had it together from the beginning, so.
But, on that note, just wanted to add, I had a big confab with Paul in my hotel room about the dream wake up, and then Nancy going, Murphy, it's you, and then Paul saying, I know you.
I know you.
Right. And the thing about it is that the argument was, shouldn't that be before the wake up? And Paul, this is why I just want to say, it's a shout out to Paul. If you would have had, not to denigrate it, but if you would have had the average action director from Hollywood doing this, it would have not been Paul, who has a master's degree in myth and medieval, this and that and whatever. And Paul said, this is not, when Paul McCane says that to you and Nancy Allen says that to you, this is not amnesia. This is the one thing, and it gets like heady, right? This is the one thing that they can't take from you, which is your soul. And your soul is waking up. And I'm thinking, this guy's out of it. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? He says, your soul is waking up, Peter. Your soul is waking up. And then it's born out in a physical universe by what Paul says and what Nancy says. And that's the justification of it. But the waking up is not amnesia. It is God-given. And I think, okay, man, okay. And now that you say that, though, that's the run of the movie. That's totally it.
Well, thank you. You just made me feel a little bit smart. Paul and Kurtwood. So you guys, again, I'm so in love with this movie. First of all, I remember when it came out, and I suppose there were others like me. I didn't like the title. The title, to me personally, was like, this is going to be silly, and I'm just 20 years old and super smart. And then I saw it, and right away from that first scene, you have 30 seconds to obey. I was like, oh, well, wait a minute, hold on, this is interesting. But you guys play villains that are simultaneously a little bit cartoonish, but not too cartoonish to not feel the threat and the menace. And I feel like that takes some magic from you guys. Paul?
I have to go back to Paul Verhoeven. I think it was really him and Ed and Michael. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm half awake. I have to tell you, when I first got the audition for this, I heard the title and I thought, oh, what kind of piece of crap is this going to be?
That's right.
And I read it, and it was really smart and really good and really interesting and full of social commentary. And I think that was Paul's whole thing. The sort of, there are sort of legendary, somewhat stories about how Paul was really intent on amplifying the violence and having it being a little, everything was a little forced perspective, but it wasn't ungrounded or unanchored, and that was And that's the difference. That's a large contributes to the difference you're talking about as well. About in the hands of a different director or a lesser director, honestly, it wouldn't have had that anchor, and it wouldn't have involved philosophy and social commentary in anything like the degree that it did. My personal opinion was the script I thought was fantastic, and then what Paul did with it enhanced it even more. So you know, that's anything that we did, or at least that I did. Paul was very encouraging of, and it shaped very much. So we really owe a lot of debt of gratitude to Mr. Verhoeven.
Completely agree. Completely agree.
Was there, well, so then we got that he's got a plan, and you guys then followed that plan, but how much freedom and then how much obstruction is there or pushback on certain things? So does he tell you there are moments of like, okay, tone that down a little bit, or amp that up a bit?
There was an immense moment that I wanted to yell out, and I see I was wrong, because I see that the tragedy of the film is essentially when I take off that helmet and I'm something other, and you know, there's a line. I mean, it's a spoiler alert, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. But you know, I wanted to yell it out. I could feel them, but I can't remember them.
It's a beautiful one.
Yeah, and he said, and he took me aside, and he said, Peter, he called me Robo on the set.
He called you Robo?
Listen, here's the deal. Yes, I did not eat Oreos. Okay? In all difference to Randy, who was very pissed off that Paul wouldn't let anybody near me, because, and good for him, but they'd let me in. Because once you're in that suit, man, you ain't talking to nobody. And on the weekends, by the way, I would hang out with these guys. I would go run my miles and then hang out with Kurtwood and Joan and Paul and Calvin and everybody else, the bad guys. But the point is that he took me aside and he said, Peter, you know, this is the examination. This is an examination. This is a confession, right? It's not a catharsis. It's just a small little confession that your family's gone.
And your instinct as an actor was to make it.
Well, I wanted to, because I wanted to do something comparative, like, I like it, you know, right? But I wanted to vomit the thing, and Paul said it's not a catharsis. It's not the vomiting. It's
The vomit was mine.
Yeah, that's right. All vomiting to Paul in the film.
And he was right. And he's dead right.
I think one of the things that we should really talk about is the death of Murphy.
That's not a spoiler. That happens early in the movie. It isn't. It's true. It's right.
Yeah.
None of you guys have seen the film.
Yeah. So
right?
that's I usually.
You've never.
Who hasn't seen it?
Anybody not seen it?
No. So
A
isn't
lot
that?
of us kids have not. Yeah.
We're
It's
ruining
always-
things. Plug
Yeah,
your
we're
ears.
running it for you.
But like I said, I'd seen it. I knew what was happening, and I watched it last week, and I was freaking dazzled. So you're good. Don't worry. Anyway, go ahead, Kirby.
Well, just the fact that it goes on quite a bit. You know, Paul was insistent that the death be big, as big as he could make it. You know, it went before the board 17 times before.
17 times.
17 times
Yeah,
just to get it down to an R.
And yes, to get it to an R. 17 times, right.
Right. But it hangs over the movie.
My God, how much more could there have been? What was there before? How long can you scream? Yeah.
I don't know which production they're showing here. I don't know which cut they're showing.
I'm sure they're showing the. You know what? I don't know. I never know. So about that.
Anyway, these two mofos killed me.
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah. A lot. But there was also the like I just made fun of it, but some of it we see and it's gruesome, but much of it we hear. Right? We're looking at other characters. We're Nancy listening to your wailing, and it is quite powerful.
But it's important as the film goes along, as Robo regains his consciousness, that he was dead. We killed him.
Right.
There wasn't any mistake. He isn't coming back alive. He's still dead.
Right,
it was
this
very smart
isn't
thing.
the $6 million man. This isn't rebuilding
right.
the same guy back together with bionics. This is a new creation. Yeah, it's a very powerful idea, and I'm glad to hear, Paul, that you were as sort of turned off by the title as I suspect some people were, although I imagine there's a whole slew of people who were wildly drawn in by the title. I mean, and of course now it seems like it's just part of the vernacular. It's such a great title now. And now I want to call Peter Robo, or I guess Professor Robo.
I don't know. I agree with Paul. My agent at the time, a long-time agent, Rick Messita, said, "Hey, there's this guy Paul Verhoeven's got this movie called RoboCop." What a iffy title that is. But I'd seen all Verhoeven's movies. I'd seen Soldier of Orange. I'd seen Spetters. I'd seen Fourth Man.
Yeah.
I said, okay, this guy writes incredible personal stories, with a huge operatic backdrop of motorcycle racing or World War II or what have you. I said, he's gifted. And so I got to meet him. And but speaking of dumb titles, I'll just say this: Dino De Laurentiis. They postponed it. They postponed the offer, and finally Dino offered me the King Kong sequel. And I had to go talk to Dino, who I later worked with. Dino was an amazing dude. Loud! Neapolitan. And so I walked into Dino, and the first thing he says is, how much money you want not to do this stupid effing RoboCop movie?
What was the number?
But Ben,
Apparently too much, because he did the movie.
I
so.
want to say, man, I'm as like easy as the next guy, because all of a sudden I'm thinking Ferraris and mansions and whatever.
So what's crazy here, how many people saw Knights of Cabiria in this theater just before this? So it's like,
What a brilliant movie.
so we gave the Robert Osborne Award to Bruce Goldstein. We showed Knights of Cabiria. Bruce Goldstein imitated Dino De Laurentiis on the stage for that movie. Apparently, this is going to happen for every movie we show.
The great Dino, who had a sweatshirt that said, "Life is too short not to be Italian."
That's right, my wife is going to be into that. I'm curious, this particularly applies to you some, Paul, particularly to you, Kurtwood. You were here for a Citizen Ruth, where you played, again, I suppose the villain, but it's more complicated, certainly in Citizen Ruth.
Yeah, I wouldn't describe it.
Okay, yeah, so, but this is so how tough when you play a villain as memorable as Boddicker, and is a name that I'll always remember because I'm a big baseball fan, and Mike Boddicker was pitching very effectively at the times to get Clarence Boddicker. First for the Orioles, and then for other clubs. I don't have to tell you guys that. I knew he would come up tonight. You play a villain as sort of memorable as that. I imagine there is some thought, like immediately, it's not so much a fear, but you know, I gotta make sure that this is not the way the rest of my career goes automatically. Was that, did you undertake that, or?
Later.
Later.
After I did it, then I said.
That's what I meant. I mean, after you did it, then you're like, okay, now I have to do a little work here to make sure this isn't the only thing people cast me.
Yeah. I was very conscious for the next few years about what parts I took, and I passed on a couple of good things that I.
Oh, you passed on some villains just because you thought, this is a mistake. This is.
It's great fun playing those parts, and I have since then. But initially, I wanted to be an actor. I didn't want to be the psycho guy. I was pretty conscious of it. But once a couple of years later, I did. I'm spacing out here. Dead Poets Society, and I think after that. Thank you.
What do we think is the, I'm gonna say something else about me, because that's why people are here. I just realized the dumb mistakes I made, that initial instinct. I remember not wanting to see it, and I remember the next year, 1988, not wanting to see Die Hard, because I don't want to see the guy from Moonlighting pretend to be Sylvester Stallone, right? And then you go and you're like, oh my God, this is fantastic, right? And the through line there, again, is these really talented directors, I think, who knew how to make these movies much more than they were. Peter, you became a big star after this movie, even though we barely saw this part of you, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it catapulted me into some loot.
Some Ferraris, yeah.
Indeed, I bought a Ferrari right after this. Right.
What'd you say?
Yes, I bought one.
You bought a Ferrari?
I confess.
You still have it? No.
I had it until I had a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't have a Ferrari.
The kid, Teddy, and his friends, John and Edward and Emmett, I want to do a shout out for them.
So as I want to make sure I have this. I had to look on my phone, which I hate to do during these things, but
While you're looking for this,
hang on.
listen, my mother told me when you have admiration for somebody, you got to throw it out there, otherwise you're going to walk away and regret it. And I have to tell you, that in the realm of journalism and literary critics, most of whom have been on my side, some have not, I have not met anyone as incisive and as articulate, as entertaining as Ben.
That's super nice of you to say. That's nonsense, but it's very nice of you to say. Thank you. That actually means a lot. I appreciate it. You called out your kids, so we've reached the call-out portion of the evening. I want to mention Diane Robin and Adrienne Sachs, who have played the...
Are they here?
They're here.
Diane's here.
Yeah.
Is Adrian here?
Yeah. Yeah, they are. Right, well, thank you for...
Look, I met Ben.
But hold on, I just want to point out, when you get to this point in the movie, Kurtwood will now tell you how to recognize when we've reached the point of the movie where they are...
Bitches leave.
There we go.
On that note, the great John Milius, writer of the Conan movies and Apocalypse Now, whatever, favorite line in the film is, I like it! I asked Nancy Allen, what is your favorite line in this film? She says, there's only one great line in the whole film. It's bitches leave. And then she asked me mine. Mine is, Dick, I'm very disappointed.
Ronnie Cox and Miguel Ferrer are very, very memorable in this film.
Gifted, yes.
As well, really gifted, and in a sense, the real. Well, we can't call Miguel Ferrer the villain. He's just but he's a fool. He's a fool. Ronnie Cox turns out to be a bigger villain than you are. What about the beginning of the movie? We're gonna show the movie, but I promise. That
I think we should stay on the stage and we'll just narrate the whole film. It's like this besides.
Did you guys, when you read the screenplay, I imagine that if I'd been an actor, I'm obviously not an actor, but if I were an actor and I'd seen the screenplay and I was aware of what happens at that first boardroom scene, right, and how that scene ends and how it's written and how it's structured, and this chilling moment only represented by a robot not recognizing a command, and we immediately know, oh my God. From that point on, you're already you're turning the page, right? Like this is like you're vested. Is that fair?
Yeah,
I mean, from the Ed 209 moment? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, from the right, that first scene, right, I didn't remember the numbers, but yes, the A209, right, you have 30 seconds to disarm, and they're like, that's great. And then, that's just, I mean, that's like, I mean, that to me, in movie terms, it might as well, I was gonna say, it might as well be Shakespeare. It's so great. It's such a great idea.
Well, it also sets up, it's what we think is going to happen to him. That he
Right.
will be at 209.
Right.
But he isn't because he finds his soul.
I do, and you know, the Ed 209 scene was another one along with the Kurtwood Paul assassination that they had to cut like what, 8 seconds, 9 seconds out of because the MPGA didn't want to. It's
Too
what,
violent.
but I think the long version is funnier. I don't think the long version is more frightening because the guy bounces around like a ping pong.
Maybe that's the version we have. I don't know. It's funny. It is funny. It goes from being horrifying to funny. It really
Yeah.
takes you.
And Dan O'Hurley, he just sits there like stone.
Yep. Yeah. It's so good, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. I love that you're here. Peter Weller has a new book. Peter, what's it called?
It's called Leon Battista Alberti in Exile. He's a very famous Renaissance guy who the Brits think came to Florence and saw the Ninja Turtles and wrote the first modern book on painting. And I say, no, he didn't. He saw a lot of stuff. So the book is about all the stuff he saw.
It's a book about Italian Renaissance art.
It is. It'll walk you through the whole Renaissance.
Because you have a PhD in...
Italian Renaissance art and intellectual history.
Come on. So I only bring that up because...
And you thought I was another orange juice in from Malibu walking in here?
I only bring that up because maybe you'll get Paul's book, but Peter's book, but mostly because you will now reassess that compliment that he gave me, and it will have even greater heft.
Yeah, man.
That's right.
Yes. Assess that because I've known a lot of literary journalists, man, and he's brilliant.
All right, there we go. Look, I got it again. Paul McCane, Peter Weller, Kurtwood Smith, 1987 RoboCop. Thank you guys. Thanks for coming this weekend. Thanks for supporting TCM.